Greetings on this cold winter's day. I'm Robert Fuchs, and today's topic is immigrant community. It's time to prepare for the worst. It's very important for us to remember back in the 1990s when President Clinton was president, and we had a tough time for immigrants who were being detained at work, being detained while they were driving, being detained in many places that for the last, I would say, 25, 26 years hasn't been happening, but it's about to return. Uh, Especially people who go into criminal court, people who have orders of deportation. Things were tough back in the 90s. I was a young attorney helping immigrants who were working and being corralled. I used to remember people coming to my office, about 25, 30, 35, 50, up to 50 people from one employer. They were stopped by ICE. It wasn't called ICE at that time. They were stopped by immigration and detention, and they were put into deportation. At those times, there were other remedies available to them. There was 245I, so they had a possibility if they had an old case, or they could file a case, and as long as they did it by a certain time, and that happened up till 2001. So there are other possibilities, but since that time, the ways to legalize your status that are available to people who are here in this country have become very scarce. And so we're looking at a very tough time for immigrants here in the United States. Many people who are attorneys now don't remember those times. They haven't been around that long, and they remember the 2000s after Clinton was president. They remember DACA, they remember TPS that's been around since the 80s for Salvadorans, and then later for other people. But they don't remember those times of detention, and in fact, employers forgot. Many employers, maybe they no longer own the businesses that were around back then, and the new employers don't remember, they weren't around to realize how tough it is on business when all your employees are being rounded up. Having a lot of employers who are pro-Trump and anti-immigrant, and they hire immigrants to do their work. People in the crops and people in the agriculture business, in trucking, in delivery, in construction, healthcare, restaurant business. There's so many businesses that hire immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal, and now they're going to realize what a Trump presidency really is about. I think the first time he wasn't prepared with his plans and everything lined up. Now he has a lot of experience. He has people ready to do things. He already became inaugurated yesterday, and he already set down things that he's going to take away citizenship from children who were born in the United States to illegally present immigrants. So it's going to be a wild ride. I think a lot of people who don't have the experience of dealing with this type of situation. In fact, in the 90s and having all that happen, that's when I got involved with immigration reform because it was devastating. It was devastating to the economy. It was devastating to neighborhoods. It was devastating to employers. And we're going to be seeing that again because of these racist type attitudes. They, since the 80s, other than last time with legalization and maybe the 245I, there really has been no step to improve the ways immigrants can come legally. There's no way, there hasn't been any talk about immigration reform. There hasn't been any talk about legalization. The National Coalition for Dignity and Amnesty about Undocumented Immigrants that I belong to, which is a group that didn't have any funds. We were the leaders at that time and working with the Bush White House, the son working with the Bush White House and trying to bring about reform. And unfortunately, none of the other organizations wanted to take it seriously. Well, now these are the repercussions. Either you try to improve things and work towards having a immigration reform that legalizes undocumented and reforms the laws that people can enter through in a lot quicker manner than they can now, without having to wait 10, 15, 20 years to get here. Like my parents did. They came in quickly in the before the 80s. It was a lot quicker system, it was a lot better system, and then things just went downhill. So we're going to be ready. We're going to get ready for having a really tough situation in neighborhoods and businesses that rely on immigrants and churches and all these places. And so hopefully, already President Trump has stated that he's going to change the head of the immigration courts, because what they're going to try to do is expedite a lot of deportations, take away a lot of the rights of immigrants, as they've been doing for the last, I would say, at least 30 years. They've been doing things since the 90s till now of taking away rights of immigrants and doing nothing to help improve the legal immigration system. So if you keep attacking and things get worse and more people coming illegally, and instead of fixing the immigration system, which they should have done, and legalizing the status, I would create a proposal law that was called the Freedom Act, and it was a way of doing everything we needed to do, reforming immigration, having a system where immigrants can come quicker instead of waiting years. Employers can't wait for workers for years. And we have an elderly population. We're going to be affecting our economy by not having people to replace the retiring citizens of this country. So hopefully we adapt, and hopefully if we learn from this time, hopefully something happens at the end that we can have a real immigration reform, because of the suffering that many people are going to have to go through, unfortunately.